Hi, I'm Paul, and in today's video, I'll guide you through building a knowledge wiki in Obsidian. I'll walk you through how I migrated my System Engineer Wiki from Notion to Obsidian using some handy community plugins. This video is perfect for Obsidian users looking to enhance their vaults. By the end of this video, you'll have practical insights on creating a fully functional knowledge wiki. Join me as we build a knowledge wiki inside Obsidian. Before we get started, be sure to download my free Obsidian Starter Kit vault from my Ko-Fi page so you can follow along with the video. If you're looking to take your Obsidian experience to the next level, consider supporting the channel by purchasing the Obsidian Knowledge Wiki Vault. This Pro version includes a fully built knowledge wiki with all the data view queries, community plugins, templates, dashboards, indexes, and meta-bind code snippets featured in this video. It's a great way to save time and supercharge your Vault setup. Transitioning from Notion to Obsidian, my System Engineer Wiki challenge. We'll start off by jumping into Notion. I'll show you how I had my System Engineer Wiki set up. So I had a page for my dashboard, and here are all my action items. Down here, I had my System Engineer Wiki. So I could navigate by clicking the button, which would take me to my System Engineer Wiki. Then I had a little drop-down heading with each section. From there, I'd select the part of my wiki that I would like to access. So if I was needing to fetch a PowerShell script, I'd jump into the PowerShell directory. And then from here, I would just do a search. So if I needed to find something such as bypass spam filter, I'd just come up to the search tool here and type in bypass. And then I would be able to find the snippet of code that I was after. And I could just simply open it, copy and paste it, either using the copy here, or I'd just copy this PowerShell script and then use it inside PowerShell. So this was quite handy. Out of the box, Obsidian doesn't have a table view with a searchable field to quickly flush out anything in a knowledge wiki. I've been quite reluctant to move all this data into Obsidian due to the fact that it's so easy to access it inside Notion that I just thought visually this is more appealing. The tags are already nicely styled. Everything's laid out nicely. It's easy to search and quickly grab the information that I need. But I thought I was going to give it a go anyway. So let's jump into Obsidian and see how it would look if I were to set up my System Engineer Wiki inside Obsidian. I'd set it up under a map of contents called System Engineer Wiki. And then inside there, if we jump into the source view, I'd just have a data view query, which would list all the System Engineer notes and tell me how many days alive they are in my vault from my Spaces System Engineer Wiki folder, which is located down here under here. And then under there, I would have all my subfolders for my wiki. So in its most basic form, I'd get a list view of 30 System Engineer notes. But if I wanted to grab something from PowerShell, then unless I knew what I was looking for, I wasn't really going to be able to find it. Could do a Control-O and try find it that way. But then it's going to search my whole vault, which is going to be quite difficult to find what I'm looking for. So here's the solution I've come up with. We jump into my Spaces and we come down to my System Engineer Wiki. We will hide the left and the right pane. Now I have my System Engineer Wiki laid out in a data view table. I have my PowerShell directory here. And if I click into my PowerShell directory, it loads all my PowerShell notes. If I want to add a new PowerShell script, I have a button here to do so. So let's add our script from Notion. I'll click on New PowerShell Script. I'll jump back into Notion and I'll grab the name. I'm going to jump back into Obsidian and then I'm going to add bypass spam filter. We open up the directory. We can see it's placed it in the folder with a prefix PS for PowerShell. I've got the name of the script, which is bypass spam filter transport rule. Then it's going to ask me to enter the date added. At the moment, Obsidian doesn't support templater in the YAML property, so I'm going to have to manually select today's date. It's already told me it's PowerShell, so then I'm going to go back to Notion I'm going to grab my script. I'm going to place that in my script here. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to copy my notes here, pop it in there. It's going to ask me the source. So the source I didn't jot down for this one. And we'll just copy that down here as well. And maybe we could put it there. So in its most basic form, now we have the bypass spam filter transport rule PowerShell snippet added into the System Engineer Wiki for allowing quarantine emails to come through to a Microsoft tenant. So now I can navigate back to the PowerShell directory. I'm going to close off the left pane, and that's going to take me back to the PowerShell directory. You can see I have now the new snippet of code in my data view query here. Now, if I had as many PowerShell scripts as I have here in Notion, then what I've got now is a little search tool here where I can just put in a keyword, bypass, and then it's going to give me a result here from my vault to flush out any snippets of code with the keyword bypass from my PowerShell directory. I can hit the middle mouse button to open and grab it and still copy it and use it within PowerShell. And if I ever need to go back to my System Engineer Wiki, I can go back here, and then I have all my other sections of my wiki here. So if I wanted to add a new AWS note, I could either navigate to my AWS landing page and click on new AWS note, and then that would place it in my Amazon Web Services folder. So we'll just do that now. It's going to ask me enter the file name. You can see it's got the prefix AWS. Just call this test AWS note. Now it's placed that note in my AWS folder, and it's grabbing a template similar to my PowerShell template, and I can enter in the information here. If I want to change this, I can, but at least it's in the right place. If I want to go back to my directory, I can see it's added here, AWS test AWS note. Because I don't have any notes date added or source URL, it doesn't pull that data in. If I want to search for it, I can hit test, and now it's only going to look in my AWS Web Services folder to find the note that I'm looking for. Another thing we can do is if we want to quickly get back to our System Engineer Wiki, but we don't want the left pane showing and we don't want the right pane showing, we can set up a workspace and we can just go System Engineer Wiki, and then it's going to take us back to our System Engineer Wiki. If we don't want to go into any of these areas to find our snippet of code, so if I wanted to grab that bypass from my PowerShell directory, I didn't want to click through to it, I can just type in bypass on the System Engineer Wiki page, and now it pulls out that new snippet of code, and I can grab it from here and use it in PowerShell. So that saves me going down to PowerShell directory, doing a search here, or grabbing it from here. And it's just as quick as it would be in Notion by coming into Notion and doing a search up here. But now inside Obsidian, I control the file. It's my private file. I don't need an internet connection to access it, and my notes are private. Now we've gone through the result. Let's now look at the process for setting this up inside your Obsidian Vault. Analyzing the source code of my System Engineer Wiki. Here we are on the System Engineer Wiki page. If we disable reading view, jump into source mode, you can see at the top here we have a metabind input text search term, and that is setting the variable up in our YAML here for search term. Down in the results, we have a data view query, which is listing from our vault tags, notes, date added, source URL from our System Engineer Wiki. And it's doing a little where statement here where it's pulling in our search term and then it's sorting the search results ascending. Below that, we have our data view query. This is pulling in our metabind buttons from the navigation button to the action button, the icon for the logo for the section from our Spaces System Engineer Wiki folder, and it's pulling in our subfolders, Amazon Web Services, Home Lab, Intune, Linux, Microsoft, networking, Okta, PowerShell, server management, and ticketing systems. We're limiting it to 10, although we can adjust this as our wiki grows. Below that, we have a data view query to list all the notes inside our wiki. This is optional. I'm just limiting this one to 90. And then you can see down here, I have a hidden embed, which is a meta-bind embed, which is called meta-bind system admin embed. If I go down to my toolkits under my snippets, I have a folder called meta-bind embeds. Inside there, I have the meta-bind sysadmin embed. If I open it up, it shows blank. If I jump into source mode, hidden in the source view is my meta-bind buttons. If I scroll back up, these are all the meta-bind buttons that are listed in my data view query. We can see, for example, the Amazon Web Services button, which is this one here, is opening the page Amazon Web Services. It's got an ID of AWS. Below that, we have the new AWS note, and this one has an ID of AWS note. It's also creating a note, but it's pulling from the template file sysadmin AWS template, and then it's putting it into this folder here to keep it organized. And then it's got the prefix here, AWS, with a little tack, and we're telling it to open the note true. So if we go down to our templates folder and we do a little search, we can see we have our sysadmin templates here. We'll just pull up the sysadmin AWS template. And inside there, if we jump into our source view, we have our button AWS, which goes back to our AWS directory. And if we scroll down, we can see we've got the button set up here, AWS directory, ID is AWS, and it's linking back to the Amazon Web Services page. Above that, we have a templater snippet, which is going to prompt us to enter the file name after the prefix AWS. And then we have some other templater code here, such as date, month, quarter, year, and we're telling where the cursor to be placed when the template is loaded. So there's a lot going on here. The best way to explain it in this video is to go through each one step by step. So we'll do an example and I'll show you how to set one up. Installing the minimal theme and community plugins. Jump down into the settings. We're going to start by installing the minimal theme. Select manage. Minimal should be at the top of your results list. Click install and use to enable the theme. To double check the theme is enabled, just make sure it says minimal. Then we're going to grab some community plugins. Go down to community plugins. First one will be minimal theme settings. Click on install, then enable. Next one will be style settings. I'm going to click on install, then enable. Next one will be data view. Click on install, then enable. Data view is going to allow us to display our dashboard and list our wiki results. Next one will be folder notes. Click on install, then enable. Folder notes is going to allow us to create our dashboard and directory pages. Next one will be meta-bind. This plugin is going to allow us to create our buttons. Next one will be the quick add plugin. Click install, then enable. Next one is templater. Click install, then enable. Navigate to your core plugins, scroll right down to the bottom, and just make sure that Workspaces is enabled. We'll cover this later in the video. Creating folders and directory index pages. Now we have the minimal theme installed and our community plugins, we need to create our folders and directory index pages, as well as our System Engineer Wiki dashboard. Navigate to Spaces, go down to Wiki, call this whatever you would like. For this tutorial, we'll call it System Engineer Wiki. And then just go ahead and place all your folders inside. Once you have all your folders created, go ahead and create your folder notes To do so, right-click the parent folder, System Engineer Wiki, go down to Folder Note Commands, select Create Markdown Note, and do that for the subfolders as well. This step is optional, but I'll leave a link in the description if you'd like to download the artwork. This is just going to allow us to set some dashboard icons for each directory. And you can just add your own on a layer in your photo editing program of choice. Once you have all your icons created, drop them into the images folder in a folder called Logos. Setting up community plugins. Let's now go set up our community plugins. Navigate down to the settings, select Data View, enable JavaScript queries, enable inline JavaScript queries, leave everything else as default. Folder notes you can leave default. Meta bind you can also leave default. You can change your date format if you like. Inside the quick add settings, set your templates folder to toolkit templates. I like to show the icon in the sidebar. It does require a reload for this to be enabled. Navigate to style settings, drop down minimal, and then data view. Turn off trim data view columns. So by default, minimal trims long text in data view fields. So if you turn this off, you're essentially going to word wrap any text in any data view cell. The last one is templater. Make sure to set your template folder location to toolkit templates. Turn on automatic jump to cursor. This is going to allow us to jump to the tp.file.cursor location listed in our templates. Ensure that trigger templater on new file creation is enabled. You also want to enable folder templates. This is going to trigger a templater template when you manually create a note in your System Engineer Wiki. So you can see here, I've done one for the PowerShell example that we used. And you can see the template there, and you can put additional folders here. You could just copy this one and then put the next one, which might be Linux, and then just type in Linux. And now you have a trigger for creating a new note in the Linux folder. So I'll show you how that works. So if you were to manually come down here and right click and create a new note, it's going to trigger templater to work its magic. If I did this in another folder, such as Intune, it doesn't recognize that I have a template set up for the Intune folder. I have to come back in here, add a new one. So now when I create a new note in Intune, it'll grab my Intune template and execute the templater functions. You're probably not going to manually create notes here. You're probably going to do it through here, but it's just a nice additional feature to keep everything nice and tidy. Creating your script template. The next step is going to be to create our PowerShell script template. This will be used every time we add a script into the PowerShell directory. Navigate down to your toolkit and under templates, just create a new note. Call it SysEng Wiki PowerShell template. It's going to be easier if we work in source mode. So just select the three dots and make sure you're in source mode. Let's go add our metadata at the top. Start with date added. Put some tags in. Just going to copy and paste these three tags here. We just want to make sure they're wrapped in quotation marks, and that's going to make them clickable inside our data view query. So the notes just gives us a quick snippet of what the script does. The source will give us the location that we found it. I'm going to put a meta bind inline button here. So we'll call this one button, just keep it short with the ID PS for PowerShell. We'll then add some meta details here. We'll use templater syntax to pull in the date, the month, the quarter, and the year. We'll just copy and paste these in. I'm going to put a heading 2 with the summary of our script. Then we want to put a templater cursor snippet so that when the note loads, it will place the cursor here. Then we're going to do 3 backticks and type PowerShell. And this is going to be where our PowerShell snippet of code is going to go. We'll put a heading 3 with when to use. Down the bottom, we're going to place templater snippet code here. And this is going to prompt us to enter the file name with the prefix PS and a little tag. Then underneath our templater script here, we're going to put our hidden meta bind button. So we right click meta bind, select button. We'll call this one PowerShell directory. This is going to navigate back to our directory. We'll give it an ID of PS, which matches our button that we created at the top. And then we just want to give it an action of open. And we want to go back to our PowerShell directory, which is 2 square brackets, PowerShell. We don't want to open it in a new tab. We can preview it here. We could go one step further, Windows button, full stop, hit a little back arrow. Now we've got our little preview down here. So we can insert that. That completes our template. So if we go back to reading view, we can see we have our button here, and then we have our templated code, which will get executed. So we do need to go into templater and ensure that it will execute this template. If you have jumped ahead in the video and haven't set up your templater settings, then open your templater settings. You want to set your template location. So go ahead and select Toolkit Templates. Then we want to automatically jump to cursor. So we turn that on, and we want to trigger templater on new file creation. So we'll turn that on as well. We can go one step further and enable folder templates. So we could say that anything that goes into our System Engineer Wiki PowerShell folder, apply the new template that we created, which is this one here. And if we need to add more, we can add it here. Because we're already doing this within the template itself, we don't really need to do it. But it's just nice if you go create the new note from here. We can reuse this template for every other note in our wiki, or we can customize from there. Creating your script directory. The next step is going to be to set up our PowerShell directory. Hit the middle mouse button, select the PowerShell node. Click the 3 dots, select source mode. We'll add our metadata at the top, put in our icon, CSS classes, button, action, and our variable search term. We'll import our icon that we created earlier with our double square brackets, select PowerShell icon, and we're going to put an exclamation mark followed by a straight line, and we'll set the width to 150 by 150. We'll then put in 2 inline buttons. So we'll do a backtick, type in button, and we'll add the name of our button in the square brackets. Put another button next to it. This is going to be for our new PowerShell note. So we'll call it new PS note. Now we'll put a heading 1 for search. Hold the Windows key, hit full stop, type in search, and we'll just choose the magnifying glass. Then we'll put 3 backticks, type in meta bind, and we're going to put our input field here. We'll make it a text field, and we're going to put our property search term. So this is going to set the variable up the top here. Then we're going to display our results underneath, and this is going to be a data view query. Just save some time here and copy and paste one from my template. We'll just run through this quickly again. So this is going to create a table without an ID with the title list from Vault. It's going to display our properties with tags, notes, the date added, and the source URL from our Spaces System Engineer PowerShell directory. Change this one to PowerShell because we've called it PowerShell, or with the tag PowerShell.
Then we have our where statement, which uses our entered search term variable to search whether it matches the file name, content, or tags.
This is optional, but you can put the full directory underneath the search data view query. So to do that, do your 3 backticks, type in data view. So this one's going to be a table with an ID. and we're still pulling in our tags, notes, date added, source URL from the PowerShell folder or with the tag PowerShell. We don't want to include this one here, so we can put that one here, and we don't want to include the name of the folder, so we'll put that one there, and that's going to exclude that file. We'll limit the results to the number that we would like, so you can put whatever number here you would like. Below that, we need to create our 2 meta-bind buttons here. So the first one's going to be our System Engineer Wiki. So right-click, go to meta-bind, select button, and then we're going to hold the Windows full stop, select the back arrow, and then type in System Engineer Wiki. We're going to paste our ID in here. We're going to make this one hidden, and we're going to give it an action to open the page or our dashboard called System Engineer Wiki. We can preview the button down the bottom left there. So we'll just insert that one. So now we have our first button, which is this button here. The next one's going to be our new PowerShell note, and this is going to grab our template over to the left here. So we'll right click, go select our button. This time we'll do Windows full stop. We'll choose the inbox emoji. We'll just call this one new PS note. Paste our ID, which is new PS note. We're going to hide this one as well. This one is going to grab our template, which we just created. So we'll hit add action, and then we need to choose the template. So we'll hit change. We'll type in syseng wiki PowerShell template. Then we want to tell it to go to the PowerShell folder to keep it organized. So we'll hit change, type in spaces, and then you just want to select the one that says PowerShell. You can give the file name a prefix of PS so you can find it later easier. And you can also toggle whether to open the note. There's a little preview down here. So we'll hit insert on that one as well. So now we have all our source code entered for our directory. We'll toggle on the reading view and we can see what it looks like. So we have a few properties missing here. So we'll jump into source mode again. For the first one, we'll put our PowerShell icon, and we want to set it to 150 by 150. Make sure you put it in quotation marks, an exclamation mark at the front, which will show it in the view. We'll leave the CSS class empty for now. We want to put a button in here. So this is going to be a button to this page here from our dashboard. So we'll put in button PS there. Now, once again, make sure you put these in quotations, otherwise it will cause problems up the top here. The action will be similar, so we can just grab this one, but this time we'll just change this one to PowerShell note. You could even make that one new PowerShell note to match this one, but I usually just keep it like that to make it nice and short. So then we'll have a look at what that looks like. We'll hide our property, and now we have our directory with our 2 buttons. Now we haven't created our dashboard yet, but we do have our new PowerShell note, so we can go test that. So it's prompting us to enter the name as we told it to down here. So we're just going to go test, and now we can see it's placed that over in the correct folder location. Go out of source mode. We can see we have our template here ready to go, so we can paste our script in, put our summary here, when to use. We forgot to hide the button in the template, so that's why it's showing down here. We can add our notes here, we can add our source here, and we need to manually enter the date here as well. Let's see if our back button works. So click on that one. That takes us back to the PowerShell directory. So the only change we really need to make is on the template here. We'll just change this one to true so that it doesn't show that button when it pulls in the template. We'll test to see if our search tool works. So we'll just try to do a search for this test here, and we can see it's pulled in that script that we just created, and it's also set the variable up the top there. So now I'm happy with our PowerShell directory, and I'm happy with our PowerShell template.
Creating your Wiki dashboard.
So the next step is to create our dashboard over for our System Engineer Wiki. So we'll pull up this one, and then once again, we're going to jump into the source mode. We'll just get rid of our right pane. That's going to give us a bit more space to work with. going to jump into the source mode on our directory page. So now I'll start with the metadata. I'm just going to add CSS classes, and I'm going to give it a class of table wide. And I'm going to add my variable search term here. Underneath that, I'm going to put my search. So I'll just copy and paste from here. And then I need my results below that. So I could even just copy the result data view here. But instead of having PowerShell, I just put System Engineer Wiki, take out the OR statement. And that's going to search my whole System Engineer Wiki here for anything that I put in the search term. So below that, I want to put my dashboard data view query. So I'll put my 3 backticks. Once again, I'm just going to copy and paste this in. Feel free to pause the video and copy it in your vault. I've got a table without an ID. I'm pulling in the button from here. Then I'm pulling in the action from here. I'm displaying the logo, which I've set here from this location here, where the file name equals all my subfolders here. And I've just got a manual limit set here of 10. I don't need that. I can take it out. I just like to keep it in there to limit how many pages I've got here. It's optional, but underneath you can put all your notes. So you could do another data view query underneath, and I'll just do a copy and paste. Because I don't want to pull in everything, I'll just limit it to 90. You can make that less or more. You can leave that out completely. It doesn't need to be at the bottom. One last bit of code for our dashboard is our hidden meta bind embed. We haven't created this yet, so this is what we'll create next. So we'll do our 3 backticks. We'll put in meta bind embed. We don't have it yet, so let's go create it. We'll do it in our toolkit under snippets. We'll just create a new folder here. Just going to call this one meta bind embed. And I'll hit new note in there. Now I'll just go back so I can still see this one. I'll just hit the middle mouse button. And then I'm just going to call this one meta bind dashboard embed. And I'll just copy that down here. So that's going to be my embed, which pulls in from here. So now I need to create all the buttons that I'm pulling in from here. Because we only have 2 so far for PowerShell, which is this one here, we don't really have to create all the others yet. So I'll show you what I mean. We'll just go grab one of these ones. Just going to paste this in here. This one here is going to be our PS note. So we'll jump into the source mode. That one's going to be our PS note. And then we need one to jump into the PowerShell directory. So what we'll do is we'll copy this one, paste that one down there, and then this one will be PowerShell directory. Then we'll change this to PowerShell directory or PowerShell, and we need to give it a ID. So to do that, we want to know what the ID is here, which is just PS. So we'll just change that to PS. Sometimes you'll need to put it in quotation marks like so. Sometimes you won't have to. So if we jump into reading view now, that's hidden and it's pulling down into here. And because these 2 fields are being pulled in here, when we hit the view there, we now have our 2 buttons. We want to add a emoji here. We can put it in quotation, put in a little arrow if we want to. And then when we turn reading view off and on again, then it's going to pull in our updated emoji. And then from there, what we do is we just repeat that process for all the rest of our sections here until we populate all the fields. So I won't go through that process, but I will show you how it looks in the end result.
Reviewing your completed System Engineer Wiki. So here we have it, guys. All of the additional directories have been created and added to our System Engineer Wiki. We have our AWS, our Home Lab, Intune, our Linux, Microsoft, networking, Okta, PowerShell, which we went through earlier, our server management and ticketing system. We just went ahead and duplicated our directory for all our sections. Now we have our end result, which is the System Engineer Wiki.
Earlier in the video, we enabled workspaces. So let's go set up a workspace for our new System Engineer Wiki. Open up Workspaces, give it a name, System Engineer Wiki Dashboard, hit save. So now when you first open your Obsidian Vault, to get to your workspace, you can Control P, type in workspace, load workspace, and select your System Engineer Wiki. So let's test out our navigation. We can navigate to our home lab and back to our System Engineer Wiki. We can navigate to AWS, we can navigate to Linux, we can navigate to Okta, we can navigate to Microsoft. You'll notice that we have a few other options here for our Microsoft directory. We open up the Microsoft folder. We can see we have some more subdirectories for Azure, Windows, and Windows Server. And then we have a few metabind buttons for each of these sections. Underneath our dashboard, we can see we have all the wiki notes, which is just listing each section. We only have our one script at the moment, which is PS test. Let's go test, add another one. Let's just use Linux. We'll select new Linux note. We're just going to go test. Now it loads our Linux test note, and then we can see that it's worked by checking the Linux folder. We can add our Linux script or note here. Go back. That takes us back to the Linux directory, and we can see now we have our Linux test here. We'll do a test of our search. Our search field works. So just go ahead and do that for each one of your directories. Test each directory works. Make sure the new note action works as well. If you want to change the layout of your dashboard, come up to your properties. You can take table wide out. That will make it a little bit more narrow. You can put table wide back in, or you can add the cards CSS class, which will display it in a card fashion. If you don't like where the buttons are located, you can change the data view query here. So say you wanted to put the logo in between the navigation and the action, simply do that. And now you have your button here and your new note button there. If you wanted to center align these buttons, you could go ahead and do that. And if you wanted to add more sections, you can add more sections down here. Now with the cards CSS class, it will organize this data view query here in a cards layout as well. So you might want to just remove that completely, or if you want to keep it there, that's fine. To further enhance your Obsidian experience, consider setting up the Quick Add plugin. This powerful tool streamlines your workflow by automating repetitive tasks, saving you time and ensuring consistency. Let me show you an example. We'll use Quick Add to speed up our wiki notes creation. Navigate over to your ribbon, locate the Quick Add plugin icon. Select Quick Add. You'll notice there's no instructions added. Navigate down to your settings. Select the Quick Add from the community plugins. Inside the input field, select multi, then give it a name. We'll call this one System Engineer Wiki. We'll hit add choice. We'll then change to template. We'll just grab one of our scripts. We'll call this one AWS note, where it's a template. We'll hit add choice. Then we're going to drag that into our multi here. Just make sure it's in there. And then click on the cogwheel. I'm going to select our AWS template. Then we're going to create it in our folder. So select your spaces / and then choose Amazon Web Services or whatever your folder is called. Hit add. Then we're going to toggle on the open the created file and we'll close. So now we have our automation for our AWS note. We'll do the next one, which is our home lab. So now we have our two options, AWS Note and Home Lab. So do that for the remainder of your wiki notes. We'll just skip forward a little bit in the video. So now we have all our templates loaded. We can go ahead and also add a macro. Call this one Open Wiki. Click on the cogwheel for the macro that we just created. Hit the plus icon, then select Configure. And then just type in workspaces load workspaces layout. So now we have all our automations set up. Let's go have a look at how they work. To launch Quick Add, you can either go Control P and type in Quick Add, or you can select it in the ribbon. Then it's going to give us the multi option of System Engineer Wiki. We select that one. We're now presented with all our other automations. We'll just take a look at the macro Open Wiki. That one's going to open our workspaces and ask us which workspace we would like to open. So we'll select System Engineer Wiki Dashboard. Now that presents our dashboard, and then we can select to navigate to one of our directories or create a new note. So this is one way we can speed up getting our notes into our wiki. We can also go Quick Add System Engineer and select the note that we would like to add instead of clicking our new button within the dashboard. So we'll do that for our AWS note. That's going to ask us what we'd like the note to be called. Make sure your file name format is toggled on and you give it a prefix of the name of the note. That will just stop it from prompting you for the file name twice. And then when we hit Quick Add, we select our System Engineer Wiki and we select the note which we'd like to add. Then it's going to ask us for the file name. We'll call this one test. So that's just another way that you can automate and speed up getting notes into your wiki. So the purpose of this video was to show you how you can bring a knowledge wiki from Notion into Obsidian and have the same functionality and keep everything organized. I hope this video gave you valuable insights into setting up a searchable knowledge wiki inside Obsidian. With the right community plugins and a bit of effort, migrating a wiki from Notion to Obsidian is easier than you might think. I'm curious, have you made the switch to Obsidian, or do you still prefer using Notion for your knowledge wikis? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tips and tricks. If you found it helpful, consider sharing it with a friend who might also benefit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.